Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gary Whittle. I'm a director of the Rugby League Museum Society of New Zealand, and today I'm here talking to Luisa Avaiki Kiwi Fern number 4. Good morning, how are you, Luisa?
Morning, Gary.
Good. Just here today to talk about your incredible career with Rugby League. But before we start that, can you just tell me what your current role in Rugby League is, please?
Yeah, sure. So I work for New Zealand Rugby League and I'm currently head of Women's Rugby League. I've been here since 2017 in this role.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Now, my understanding is that growing up, you weren't in a rugby league family, so how did your love affair with rugby league commence?
Yeah, well, actually, yes, you're right. You're quite correct in terms of my family was very much rugby because my dad was rugby crazy. But I knew about rugby league at a very young age is that my brothers played. So I followed my brother's games, and although we were a rugby family, I'd tag along with my dad, or even I'd go with my brother and watch his rugby league games.
And what club would that be, I wonder?
Actually, my brothers and I all played for different clubs. So my brother played for Bayroscoil. We lived in the area, we lived in Blockhouse Bay, so he started off at Bayroscoil and even my younger brother, and then they played for Marist as well. I think they thought that I would follow them and go to those clubs, but I went a little bit further out and started my career at Richmond Rugby League.
Great, Lynn. Okay. Now, getting on to that journey, you were first selected as a Kiwi Fern in 1995. What led up to you being selected as a member of that team? Was it trials? Was it playing for Auckland? How did the selection policy?
Yeah, it was that. It was, so after our club season, then we had trials for Auckland. At that time, in the very first Nationals was in Nelson in 1995, and there were 2 Auckland teams that were taken, and I was selected for one of those Auckland teams that then travelled to Nelson.
Yeah. Okay. So, 1995, who was the first team you played against?
At the national tournament?
Yes.
Oh, geez, I can't. Well, that's a long time ago, Gary. It may very well have been. It could have been Wellington, or it could have actually, because we did end up playing the other Auckland team, but not until further down the track in the competition. But I do remember playing Wellington. I remember playing Hawke's Bay. So I'm just not sure which of those teams was the first team I played. But one thing about that tournament, the first national tournament, is there's so many teams, because there were a lot of district teams that were also attended those national tournaments. A little bit different to how it is now, but I'd say there would have been about 20 teams at that tournament.
So to get selected from that group was something pretty special for you and the other Kiwi Ferns in 1995.
Yes,
yeah.
No, it was awesome. Very special being the first one. Also, it actually wasn't something that for myself personally. I mean, I was really young when I started playing, so I just enjoyed the game, and I enjoyed playing at a very competitive level alongside my friends. We got to go on a trip, and I think at that stage it was just being able to play against hard competition was awesome, and being selected for Auckland, being one of the younger girls in the team. But then the bonus of then being selected for New Zealand was pretty. I think when the team got named that evening, that's when it really hit me. And the first person I called to let him know that I had been selected for the New Zealand team was my brother, my older brother, who pretty much, he's one of the reasons why I got into the game.
Yeah. So, in 1995, who was the first international team you played against?
Australia.
Australia.
Yeah.
How did you do that day?
Oh, really good. We won that game. Yeah, we won all of our games. In 95 was also the same year, like 2 weeks after the national tournament. We had a tour to Australia where we played 5 games. We played 2 against Queensland. Obviously, we had the 2 tests against Australia, but we also played a Prime Minister's team. We played Canberra. It was an amazing trip, and also that really sparked up, not just for me, but for everyone else that was involved in that team.
So, in terms of fundraising, how did your fundraising work 30 years ago?
Yeah, it was definitely self-funded. Yes, we did a lot of fundraising, raffles, socials, t-shirt ideas where we sold t-shirts and raised our money that way. We had pretty much 2 weeks to come up with $2,000.
Okay. So, excuse me, now we move on to the year 2000. You were the Kiwi Ferns captain. What can you tell me about the year 2000 and your stint as captain of the Kiwi Ferns that year?
Okay, so I have to correct you there. I was not the captain in 2000. Sorry. No, that's okay. But that was a significant year because that was our first World Cup, and we travelled to England. So the captains there was we had co-captains, Nicole Preslin at the time. Her name was Preslin. I'm not sure what her married name is now, and Nadine Conlon. They were our co-captains, but it was just such an amazing trip. Long time. We were in England for like 3 weeks, and that was our first World Cup, and we won that.
Yeah. So you are correct. In fact, you captained the Ferns from 2001 to 2008. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So during that time, how many times did you as captain lift the World Cup?
So during that time, I played 2 further World Cups, and I'd lifted the cup as captain twice.
In terms of the World Cup, if my memory serves me correct, it must have been a great pleasure in 2003 playing the Rugby League World Cup at North Harbour Stadium.
It was so cool. We'd done a lot of travelling, playing, our tests and games overseas. So to have a World Cup and to play in front of our families and to be based in Auckland was awesome. I think the other thing that I really enjoyed about that World Cup is, again, there were many teams at that World Cup. So, we even had a lot of European, I think the French were in that World Cup as well, but all the Pacific Island teams who were based here where, we had Tonga, Samoa, Tokelau. The Māoris actually played in that tournament too, who we ended up playing in the finals, as well as, we had Great Britain, Australia, and those other countries attend as well. So, yeah, cool to play in front of family.
Yeah, I was present at the whole tournament, and I was absolutely amazed at the amount of teams that were there and the support that the Kiwi Ferns in particular got. It was quite amazing. So 2008, that was an amazing year for New Zealand Rugby League.
Yeah.
Because both teams lifted the World Cup. So what can you tell us about that 2008 tournament?
2008 was a special World Cup for me because I had already decided that would be my final World Cup, that I would not long after that retire. But it was so cool because even our lead up to that, we just worked so hard as we normally did when we were going into campaigns. But we went in with such a confidence that we'd all done the job. We were all ready for this World Cup. The cool thing about it too was we had there was a Festivals of Club there, so they had the fence defence teams played as well. They had us. They had the Men's World Cup, which was new. It wasn't new because the Men's World Cup was around the same time, 2000. But we were in close proximity those games, and we were actually playing our final at the men's semi-final at Suncorp Stadium. And our team had come through so many barriers in terms of obviously we were based in Australia, so there was a lot of eyes on Australia, and then being kind of like the favourites as we came through the pool plays. But it was just so satisfying that that final and the performance of our team in that grand final and holding Australia to a 0 in that grand final
I
match.
actually have the results of every game you played that year. New Zealand 72, Pacific Islands 0, New Zealand 42, Tonga 4, New Zealand 26, Samoa 4, England gave you a bit of a run for your money, New Zealand 16, England 4, and of course you're right, the big one, Australia 0, New Zealand 34. Now that had to be something special, holding Australia to 0.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, first of all, we were at their home grounds. Suncorp Stadium, was, had a lot. All of our families had travelled to. A lot of our families and friends had travelled to watch us. So even though we were away from home, we had a lot of support. The most satisfying thing was really leaving our best game to last as we were building throughout that tournament to then make our last performance our best performance, and hence the reason why we got that result. We knew there was no way we were going into that final losing that match, but we wanted to leave it our best game, and I feel that we did. We had a really good, talented athletes in that team. We had really good culture, and in the build up to it, we had just had really good leadership from our coaches. Stan Martin was the head coach then. Stan, it was my second World Cup with Stan actually. So I think he was retiring after that World Cup too. So for a lot of us, it was a real statement that we wanted to leave and leave the game in a really good place for all of us.
So you retired after that World Cup, but didn't stop you getting involved. What would you like to tell us about your coaching career, please?
Not long after I did retire, I continued to play for my club. I always said I'd continue to play for my club and help get more young girls into playing rugby league, especially at Richmond. And so from there, I didn't coach women actually. I did coaching courses through when I retired. I just thought I'll just go and do some coaching courses, and then there was a team, under 16 boys team, that needed a coach. They didn't have a coach, so I applied for that role and got that role. And then I actually stayed with those boys for 3 years until we got to under 20s. Then I coached, and that was in 2010. I started that with the boys, and then I stayed with them until, for 3 years until we got to under 20s, and we won that championship against a very strong, good Papakura side as well. And then I did a bit of coaching with the men's reserve grade, and halfway through that season, I left to go and do some work in rugby league in Melbourne. So I coached there in Melbourne. I did a couple of the state team for the women's, and then I came back to New Zealand 2017, and then I had no intentions of getting back into coaching, but I still had a desire to coach, and so I was fortunate enough to do some further coaching when I got back home.
Yeah. So now you're talking about Melbourne Storm. So you had a development and welfare role at Melbourne Storm, is that correct?
Yeah, I was actually a DO. I was a development officer based at the Storm. I was working for the NRL, and I was there for a few years. I really didn't have an intention to come back home for a while, but Nigel Vangana probably was one of the key people that brought me back home, because he was also working for the NRL and Wellbeing. So and I got involved in some of the teams in Melbourne too while I was there. So I did some of the junior pathways stuff with the boys. At that time, we were playing in the Queensland competitions with the Mal Meninga and Cyril Connor competition. So yeah, and then when I came back home, I just didn't coach for about a year. I just came back home to settle back here and do some. I literally came back home to come back and work in rugby league at home. It was hard being in Australia, watching rugby league, seeing the things that were starting to develop in Australia, and I was really happy doing my work there, and I was really proud of what I was doing there in the game, but I really wanted to be back home.
Your involvement in that Warriors NRLW team?
So I was the head coach with that team. Yeah, 2018, 2019. But I can say that there was I saw a lot more growth and interest in young girls. Now seeing that, the Warriors were in the NRLW and actually in a pathway that was so close to home that they could be a part of, and the interest was there because they were starting to follow females playing at that level.
Yeah. And of course, this is 2025, so I know we discussed this morning. 30 years since the first Kiwi Ferns, and I understand there's celebrations planned for October this year. Like to talk to us about that, please?
Yeah, well, we're just at the beginning of our planning phase around that, but we'd really like to celebrate and just honour the history of the Kiwi Ferns, being the 30 years, but also the people that were involved in it. I know a lot of girls who have donned that black and white jersey. A lot of them are my friends still to this day. The Kiwi Ferns, very fond. I have very fond memories as a Kiwi Fern. I started as a young, aspiring rugby league player, and then came all the way through. Had a really lengthy career there, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm just one, and I know there's so many more of our ladies who've had the similar experiences. So it'll be cool to get everyone together and really celebrate that heritage and that history of our female game at the highest level, and so deserving too, because New Zealand, the Kiwi Ferns have had a really strong history in the female game. So that's a pretty crucial, I feel, and a pretty awesome part of our history that we'd really like to, our present girls, to connect that and align that with our present Kiwi Ferns and our Kiwi Ferns down the track, so that they understand that they do come from a really strong and rich history of rugby league and the female game.
Yeah. Look, that's been I've really enjoyed talking to you this morning, and I'm sure people will enjoy watching this, but I would just like to finish off. This is what the CEO of New Zealand Rugby League, Greg Peters, says about you. Luisa has already contributed so much to rugby leagues. She's an inspiration to many of the women who play our game, and she has an undeniable passion for what she does. Therefore, we couldn't think of a better person to take on this new role that you have. And he finishes off with saying we are extremely lucky to have someone of her calibre on board, especially during a time of such significant growth. And that was 6 years ago, and as you've just said, since you've been here, the women's game has grown. So I would, on behalf of all rugby league supporters, I'd like to thank you for your contribution to our great game.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Gary. I'm really literally only a little tiny piece of that. We're very blessed. I feel very blessed in our organisation that we, as an organisation, and all the people in it, are real great advocates and have a passion for the female game.
Okay. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. Kiwi Fern number 4, Luisa Avaiki. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Gary.